Coram Boy, a historical novel. Coram Boy by Jamila Gavin is a compelling novel presented in two distinct parts, each set in a different year of the 18th century. The narrative primarily revolves around the sinister activities of the Coram man, a figure who preys on desperate mothers by taking their babies under false pretenses.
The story intricately weaves together the lives of several key characters. Alexander, a wealthy young man with a passion for music, and Aaron, a boy raised within the Coram Hospital, a genuine charitable institution. Both their destinies are profoundly linked to the enigmatic Coram man and his son, Meshach, whose actions significantly shape the unfolding plot. Notably, Coram Boy incorporates strong elements of the Gothic genre, characterized by its dark, mysterious settings, themes of horror, and often a sense of impending doom. This genre choice effectively amplifies the novel's exploration of societal injustices and the darker aspects of human nature, prevalent in the 18th century, adding depth to its historical backdrop. Key events in Coram Boy's plot. The intricate plot of Coram Boy unfolds through a series of pivotal events, beginning with Otis Gardiner's illicit trade in unwanted children, and Meshach's unwilling involvement in burying babies. Alexander's conflict with his father over his musical aspirations leads to his departure from home, setting him on a different path. Meanwhile, Otis conducts his dark business with Mrs. Lynch, the Ashbrook housekeeper, who profits from his schemes by providing valuable information. Later, Aaron and Toby are sent to work, marking the beginning of their intertwined journey and exposing them to further dangers. Melissa gives birth to Alexander's child, which Mrs. Lynch then sells to Otis, though Meshach bravely intervenes to rescue the infant, demonstrating a nascent sense of morality. Years later, Alexander and Aaron return to Ashbrook for a concert, leading to a tragic confrontation, where Thomas is killed while protecting Aaron and Toby, enabling their escape from danger. The narrative culminates with Toby uncovering Gatton's, Otis Gardiner's, plan to sell children into slavery, prompting the truth about his identity to be revealed. Meshach flees with Aaron, attempting to escape the unfolding chaos and protect his angel's baby. Ultimately, Alexander and Melissa are reunited with their son Aaron, while Meshach continues to watch over them from a distance, ensuring their safety and bringing a bittersweet resolution to the story. Understanding the prologue's significance. A prologue serves as an introduction to a literary work, providing essential background information, setting the scene, or establishing the text's overarching themes. In Coram Boy, the prologue begins with a nursemaid telling a disturbing bedtime story to a group of young children, immediately setting a somber tone.
This story recounts a woman who has 7 babies but keeps only one, begging the midwife to drown the other 6. The woman's husband secretly discovers the babies before they are drowned, raising them in secret until their 6th birthday, when he reveals them to his wife. At the sight of her 6 other daughters, the woman collapses and dies, a shocking and tragic end.
The shocking nature of this story, told to children, immediately draws the reader into the novel's harsh world, highlighting the brutal realities of the 18th century. It also establishes the pervasive issue of abandoning unwanted babies, a common and tragic practice in 18th century England, often due to poverty and lack of social support. Furthermore, this initial narrative foreshadows significant events later in the novel, including the death of Mrs. Millcote, who drops dead upon realizing Meshach is her grandson, and the eventual return of Aaron, who sings at Ashbrook on what would have been Melissa's baby's birthday, linking past and future events. Otis Gardiner. The Coram man's origins. Otis Gardiner is introduced as a scrap trader involved in illegal business, specializing in taking unwanted babies and children from their desperate parents for a fee. Parents are often misled into believing their children are going to local orphanages, but Otis instead sells the older children into servitude or worse, and tragically makes his own son, Meshach, bury the babies who do not survive or are deemed unsellable. This cruel practice highlights the extreme vulnerability of children in 18th century society, where poverty often forced families into desperate measures. Otis treats Meshach and the other children under his care with extreme cruelty, exploiting their labor and lives for his own gain. When he learns about Captain Thomas Coram's initiative to establish an institution for unwanted children, he immediately recognizes an opportunity for profit, seeing a new avenue for his illicit trade. Otis then begins to present himself as a benevolent figure, becoming known as the Coram Man, a deceptive title that masks his true, nefarious intentions and exploits the very system designed to help.
Historically, Captain Thomas Coram was a real sea captain who used his wealth to establish the London Foundling Hospital in 1739, a genuine charity dedicated to caring for abandoned children. Jamila Gavin, the author, was inspired to write Coram Boy after hearing stories of Coram men who trafficked children, revealing that figures like Otis Gardner were a dark reality of the era, preying on the desperation of families and the lack of social safety nets. This historical context adds a layer of grim realism to the novel's fictional events. Ashbrook, Love, Friendship, and Deceit. Alexander Ashbrook, the son of wealthy landowners Lord and Lady Ashbrook, is a talented student at Gloucester Cathedral School, pursuing his passion for music. His close friend Thomas, from a poorer family, joins him at the Ashbrook estate for the summer break, highlighting the social class distinctions of the era and the bonds of friendship across them. During this time, Alexander meets Melissa, the intelligent and kind daughter of the governess at Ashbrook, and they quickly fall in love, setting the stage for much of the novel's emotional conflict.
As their relationship develops, Otis and Meshach arrive at the Ashbrook estate, ostensibly to conduct business, but with ulterior motives. Mrs. Lynch, the Ashbrook housekeeper, becomes complicit in Otis's schemes, offering him valuable information about the household in exchange for a share of his illicit profits. This alliance further entangles the Ashbrook family in the dark world of the Coram Man, demonstrating how corruption can infiltrate even seemingly respectable households. Meshach, observing Melissa, becomes deeply infatuated, deceiving her as an angel, a perception that drives many of his later protective actions. His jealousy flares when he witnesses Alexander kissing Melissa, intensifying his possessive feelings and foreshadowing future conflicts. Later, Otis and Meshach are seen at the docks, selling children to work on ships, a grim reminder of their ongoing trafficking activities and the widespread nature of this cruel trade. In a pivotal moment, Otis purchases an unwanted black baby named Toby, intending to take him to the Coram Hospital to sell him to a rich family as a servant, further illustrating the dehumanizing trade in children and the commodification of human lives. Alexander's conflict, music versus duty. A central conflict in Alexander's life arises from his profound disagreement with his father, Lord Ashbrook, regarding his future. Alexander passionately desires to study music and become a composer, a pursuit he views as his true calling and a path to personal fulfillment. However, Lord Ashbrook, a traditional landowner, insists that Alexander abandon his musical ambitions and instead embrace his duty as the heir to the Ashbrook estate, learning to manage its affairs. He dismisses music as a frivolous waste of time, reflecting the prevailing societal views of the aristocracy, valuing practical estate management over artistic endeavors. The tension escalates when Alexander's voice breaks, rendering him unable to continue singing in the choir, a significant blow to his musical identity and a perceived sign of his unsuitability for a musical career. His father seizes this moment as an opportunity, deciding that it is now imperative for Alexander to give up music entirely and dedicate himself to learning the business of the estate. This decision forces Alexander into a difficult choice between personal passion and familial obligation, a common dilemma in coming-of-age narratives. Their disagreement culminates in a fierce argument, a pivotal moment that underscores the generational and ideological divide between father and son. This confrontation ultimately leads to Alexander's resolute decision to leave home and pursue his dream of becoming a composer, choosing an uncertain artistic path over the predetermined life of an aristocratic heir. This act of defiance is a common theme in literature, representing the struggle for individual freedom against societal expectations and the pursuit of one's true self. Melissa's secret and the baby's rescue. Before Alexander's departure, he and Melissa spend a night together, a moment of intimacy that leads to Melissa's pregnancy. After Alexander has left, Melissa discovers her condition and desperately tries to keep it a secret, fearing the severe repercussions in the strict 18th century society, where illegitimacy carried immense social stigma and could ruin a woman's life. However, Mrs. Lynch, the observant housekeeper, soon suspects the truth and, seeing another opportunity for profit, informs Otis Gardner, further entangling the Ashbrook family in his dark schemes. When Melissa's baby is born, Mrs. Lynch, in collusion with Melissa's mother, suggests that the infant should be sent away to avoid scandal and protect the family's reputation. They cruelly tell Melissa that her baby has died, a common deception used to cover up such situations in the era, highlighting the desperate measures taken to maintain appearances. The newborn is then handed over to Otis, the Coram man, who intends to dispose of it or sell it for his own gain, further illustrating the callousness of his trade and the vulnerability of abandoned infants. Unbeknownst to them, Meshach has been secretly watching over Melissa, whom he considers his angel, and is aware that the baby given to Otis is hers. Despite Otis's direct order to bury the infant, Meshach's protective instincts towards Melissa and her child override his fear of his father, marking a significant moral turning point for him. He makes a courageous decision to protect his angel's baby, defying Otis and instead taking the infant to the Coram Hospital, a place of genuine care, thereby saving the child's life and setting the stage for future plot developments.
Aaron, who inherited his father Alexander's musical talent, is apprenticed to a musician and receives further tutelage from Alexander himself, who has failed to become a musician. This development highlights the enduring power of artistic passion and the positive influence of mentorship. Meanwhile, Mish, formerly known as Meshach, continues to watch over Aaron, his angel's baby, and worries deeply about the possibility of being separated from him, his protective instincts remaining strong.
In a cruel twist of fate, Toby is sent to work as a servant for Mr. Philip Gaddon, who is in fact the disguised Otis Gardner. This reintroduces the threat of the Coram man into Toby's life, placing him in immediate danger and demonstrating the inescapable nature of their past. Gaddon treats Toby with extreme cruelty, forcing him to wear exotic clothes when company is present and treating him like a mere pet or curiosity, rather than a human being. He also subjects Toby to physical abuse, including whipping, reflecting the pervasive racist attitudes and practices common in 18th century England, where people of color were often dehumanized and exploited. unmasking identities and tragic revelations. During a party at Gadden's house, the Coram Choir, which includes Aaron, performs. Alexander, now a successful musician, is present and immediately recognizes Gadden as Otis Gardner, a notorious Coram man. This shocking realization brings the past back into the present, connecting the seemingly disparate lives of the characters and revealing the enduring impact of past actions. However, Thomas, who has been investigating Otis's past, reveals a grim detail. He believes Otis Gardner was executed 7 years prior, after the remains of babies were discovered in the Ashbrook Woods. This information creates confusion and further deepens the mystery surrounding Gadden's true identity, adding a layer of suspense to the unfolding drama. Alexander, seeking to mend his fractured family relationships, decides it is time to reconcile with his family. He brings the Coram Choir to perform at Ashbrook, hoping to bridge the divide and bring healing. During the performance, Aaron's striking appearance, particularly his musical talent and resemblance to Alexander, stirs a painful memory in Melissa's mother. She is reminded of the baby Melissa gave away, a child she had long assumed died due to the discovery of the baby's remains in Ashbrook Woods, leading to a dawning, horrifying realization. The climax of this scene occurs when Melissa's mother recognizes Mish as Meshach, Otis Gardner's son. The shock of this profound realization, coupled with the understanding that her daughter's baby was not only alive but also Aaron, her grandson, proves too much for her. Overwhelmed by the truth and the weight of her past actions, she collapses and drops dead, a tragic consequence of the long-held secrets and deceit, underscoring the devastating impact of past choices and the power of truth. Escape, pursuit, and final revelations. Mish, consumed by fear that Aaron's true parentage as the son of Alexander and Melissa will be discovered, decides they must flee. He runs away with Aaron, heading towards his father's house in London, hoping to find a safe haven and escape the looming threat. This desperate flight underscores the constant danger hanging over Aaron due to his origins and the secrets surrounding him, highlighting the precariousness of their lives. Upon their arrival in London, Gadden, who is still Otis Gardner, realizes that Mish's presence could expose his true identity and his past crimes, jeopardizing his new life. To prevent this, he locks Aaron and Mish away, planning to sell them as slaves at the docks, a horrifying continuation of his child trafficking business and a testament to his unwavering cruelty. This desperate act highlights the extreme danger they are in as they face the ultimate loss of freedom. Fortunately, Toby, who has been suffering under Gadden's cruel servitude, overhears the plan. Recognizing the imminent danger to his friends, he bravely escapes Gadden's clutches and rushes to find Thomas, seeking his help. This act of loyalty and courage sets in motion the final attempt to save Aaron and Mish, demonstrating the power of friendship in the face of adversity.
In the novel's dramatic conclusion, Toby, Alexander, and Thomas bravely attempt to rescue Aaron and Mish, but their efforts are tragically unsuccessful. Aaron, Toby, and Mish are forced onto a boat bound for America, a symbol of forced displacement and the continuation of the slave trade, highlighting the grim realities of the era. In a final devastating act, Gadden kills Alexander, eliminating a key figure who knew his true identity and had been working against him. A shocking sacrifice.
However, the story offers a glimmer of hope and resolution. Aaron and Toby manage to jump overboard, making their way to Ashbrook House. There, Meshach finally reveals himself to be Alexander and Melissa's son, bringing closure to the long-held secret of Aaron's parentage and uniting the fragmented family. While Meshach remains on the boat, eventually returning to England, his life and peaceful death are described in the epilogue, suggesting a measure of peace after a life of turmoil and a quiet end to his complex journey.